guys, this is Jackie from Jack Gets Lost Down a Book Hole, and my dog just decided to jump in the chair after all with me. Um, so first and foremost, I must say I feel really bad. I should have gone for my run today. For my exercise. I try to run around the neighborhood. But today I just didn't feel like it, and I probably should have gone because I was anticipating rain, so I decided that was my excuse. And then it didn't, and it just started to get sunny around 5 o'clock. 5 p.m. It's like, why do you get sunny now? But I came home, my mom got me Sonic, which is like a fast food place where you can get like burgers, hot dogs, stuff like that, and really awesome milkshakes. We were already out. We were running errands. I had like a doctor's appointment or something, like a checkup. And my parents got invited with some friends to go out to eat. And of course, that's not my kind of idea of fun. So Mom agreed to pick up some Sonic for me to eat. And now I feel really guilty because I just finished eating it. Because I decided to go ahead and eat it because I was already hungry. And I should have run because it was a burger and it was all greasy, and then the milkshake, which was peanut butter and Oreo, which I'm not done with that actually. I have it right here. It's so good. But anyway, yeah, so I feel really bad about that. Yeah, I decided to go ahead and share what the recent books I purchased in the last week, because I have no self-control, and every time my parents volunteer to take me to the bookstore, or if I go ahead and walk to the used bookstore in town, I can't not buy a book. I have a serious problem, I know. But I feel, it was kind of nice to hear from my mom that if it makes you happy, then that's fine. Because, that's really, most of my money goes into buying books unless I'm getting a gift for someone. Or if I go shopping to clothes shopping with my mom, then yeah, I'll look at clothes. Because that's another thing that's also kind of hard not to. I'm not a fashionista or anything, but, I like cute clothes too, like any girl does. Well, not any girl. There are some girls that probably don't, but anyway, so on to the books. I wanted to share with you the books I bought. And, some of these are books that are part of a series or a trilogy. And, I just need to get the next book because when I start, they were a series, it was a series that I keep hearing so much about, and I figured, you know what? I need to go ahead and get into the series because it has elements that I like. Or it's a series that I already got the first book or the first couple books in the series and I needed to get the next one or the very last one. Actually, and today, I did buy another book from a series. I almost bought it, but then I was like, you know what, let me just wait and go ahead and read the fourth book. That's the book right before it. Actually, there were a few books that I almost bought the next book in the series, but finally I narrowed it down and picked the book because I am not one of those people who can buy 10, 20 books in one go. I can't do that. Okay, so these were the books I got from Books A Million. And the first one I'm going to show you is Caraval. I had borrowed this one from the library last year, and I really enjoyed it. And as I said in the video where I can't remember what video, because I do remember bringing up this book in a video already. I actually liked Scarlet. I know a lot of people do not like Scarlet. They think she's a hypocrite and annoying and blah blah blah. But I actually like her character. And maybe it's because I can relate more to Scarlet, and maybe that might be a bad thing because a lot of people don't like her character. So not that it should make a difference what people would think. But yeah, and maybe a lot of times with these kind of situations where I like a character that not everybody else likes, and I I can't talk. And then I figure out that I probably like that character because I can relate to that character. Sometimes it does make me question myself, and it's like, what would you guys think of me if I was a character in a book? But of course, it's just me being all paranoid and overly sensitive, so. But I cannot wait for the next one, and I don't know when it might be a year after it comes out before my library gets the book, so I went ahead and bought the book. And was even more encouraged after watching Abigail Haley's video. And I think this is when she was anticipating, I think it was Abigail Haley, she was anticipating the sequel Legendary. And I commented on her video saying, I remember really enjoying that book, and I've been thinking about getting that book, and she said, oh, you should get it. So that was kind of my confirmation. That was kind of my final decision. So, in fact, BookTube has really encouraged me, not like on purpose, but, well, maybe a little bit, because I'm sure that when they talk about the books that they love, they're also their way of recommending the books and saying you should buy this book, or at least borrow it from the library. So, but there's been a lot of, I definitely am reading a lot more different types of books, and who knows, some of these books, even the books that are in my regular genre, like YA fantasy genre is what I used to read a lot of. I mean, I still do, and not used to, I still do. I don't know if I might have gone to those books, I might not have. Who knows? I'm definitely hearing a lot more about these books, thanks to BookTube, and I'm getting a lot more motivation to buy these books. And not just, like, I recently made a comment to one of my favorite booktubers, Jennifer from Insert Literary Pun Here, and her reviews of certain books are the reason I'm buying a lot more literary books, or a lot of adult books that aren't, because she loves them so much, and she's a booktuber that I enjoy, and I really appreciate what she has to say about the books that she likes. So anyway, back to this. So yeah, I went ahead and bought it, and then I'm going to go ahead and buy Legendary because I really enjoyed this book. So the next one I got was this one, Stalking Jack the Ripper. I don't know why it took me so long to get into the series. Maybe it was because it was a James Patterson Presents, and I kind of stopped liking James Patterson. Like, I heard that he doesn't even write his own books anymore, and now it's just an assembling line of books for him whenever he publishes a new book. And that's just really bugging me, because I know it is really, I have never got a book finished. I've never got a book published, let alone finished. I've only written, like, maybe a few chapters on fan fiction, and then pages, and taking notes for novels that I have ideas for novels that I want to write someday. But I do have some idea of how hard it is to write a book, and authors put in a lot of effort. And the fact that you think now that you're so great and so brilliant that you don't even have to put in the work anymore really annoys me and bothers me. And I think it's a little offensive. But of course, now I don't know James Patterson personally. It's just from what I heard about him and how he doesn't write his own books anymore. Of course, it could be just because he wants to write so many books that he just doesn't have any time to write his own books anymore. In his defense. I think that could be the reason why it took me so long to get to the series. But I do love historical fiction. And this is also, like, with a really strong female character that, I've heard a lot of great things about this character. But, I've also heard about this character having traits that I don't always like in characters. But I'm still going to give it a try. And YA books aren't that expensive. This was $10.99, so $11, so that's not terrible. And plus, the idea of her going after Jack the Ripper, and then the next book she's going after Prince Dracula, and then the third book she's going to be going after, or she'll be, escaping Houdini. I do really love the concept. I definitely want to read more books like this, and like I said, I don't know why it took me so long. except for maybe it was a James Patterson Presents book, and I just wasn't interested in, I was like, I don't. So I got that one, so I will be getting around to that series finally. And then the last one I bought from Books A Million is The Beauty of Darkness, the third book in the Revenant Chronicles. I have been wanting to read the Revenant Chronicles in a long time. I've always loved the kind of princess story, the Cinderella kind of a mixture of Cinderella story. And and the story kind of reminded me of an idea I had when I was a kid. It's a little story that I would act out. I was one of those kids who had no problem playing by themselves. And I would do this whole scenario where I was this princess who would rescue people that her father put in prison unfairly, and after these two siblings who are very poor, they steal, and she helps break them out of prison, and she helps them escape because there's a lot more going on than they all realize, and she helps them escape, and she ends up getting stuck with them for some reason. I just kind of made it up as I go along, and I use the sports balls as the foods items, like bread and eggs and stuff they would steal, and we had a swing set in the backyard, and that would be the horses that they get on, and we had an outside entrance to get into our basement, so that would be the dungeon area, and it was some little silly little thing, and since then I've kind of taken that to inspire some of my other ideas that I hope to one day turn into books. But this is the third book. I already got the first two books, which is Kiss of Deception, Heart of Betrayal. And the good news, I waited a long enough time for it to come out in paperback, because paperback, yes, it is cheaper. Although I'm definitely getting more into hardback books. I did buy a hardback book today. And now it's more if I buy hardbacks, it's because I just don't want to wait anymore, and I keep hearing about a certain book, and a lot of times it's, I hear about it on BookTube days ago, and I'm like, you know what, I'm going to go get it today, screw it, I'm just going to go ahead and buy it. Well, so I already read and I am thinking about reading the first book this month. Because I'm thinking, what is a good book that I could get through really quickly for my birthday month that I think I would really fall in love with. So I decided to Kiss of Deception might be that book. Although considering the length of these books, I don't know if I'll get through it quickly or not. There's this one, there's, I don't know how many chapters. Let's see. Chapters. Oh, this is Bible thin pages. 90 chapters, this last one. Okay, so I have a confession to make. I actually really like Bible thin pages. Just like I like those ones, I also like those pages that I can't remember. One of the booktubers I watched mentioned the term of what these kind of pages are called, but the ones that look very old-fashioned and crinkly on the edges, I really like those too. But I love Bible thin pages. I don't know why. I just have a thing for Bible thin pages. I guess because they remind me of older books, and I like the idea of older books. Which is funny because I'm not one of those people who will buy a bunch of collector's editions of my favorite books if they're classics. But I do like them, and I try to get them. I have those Barnes & Noble, those hardback ones with the ribbon bookmark, and they look kind of like old-fashioned books. I have those. So those are the books I got from Books A Million the other day. Now I'm going to show you the books I got today. I'm sorry, I was really excited because I was we were waiting in the doctor's office to be seen, and I knew that there was a Barnes & Noble in that area. And so I was like, this is not, I told my mom, I was like, this is not me hinting or anything. I was just curious, is the Barnes & Noble nearby here? Because I know my parents had mentioned there was one in that town. And she said, well, you know what, I think it is. I think it's close by. And so I might go ahead and take you up there and let you, walk around for an hour and maybe buy some books. And she went to Old Navy, I think, while I was doing that. So, here are the 4 books, because I ended up getting 4. There were a lot of books I was trying to choose from, and I had to narrow it down. I couldn't narrow it down lower than 4 books. I almost did, but then I was like, you know what, I'm actually going to get 4 books. Okay, so the first one is My Lady Jane. I have heard a lot about this book. One of the booktubers, I think, who talks about this book a lot that I really like watching is Haley in Bookland. She constantly talks about how great this book is, and I know that My Plain Jane is coming out. I don't know if it's this year or next year. I'm not sure. And that is based on my favorite classic, Jane Eyre. And she did, and I remember Haley was saying that you don't have to read, because this is a companion series, you don't have to actually read this one. But I went ahead and I saw it at the bookstore. But this is a comical retelling of the story of Jane Grey, who was the 8-day queen. She was one of the many women who married King Henry and then got her head. And this is more of a comical look, and I think it also has a happy ending too, because of course, in any story about King Henry, it's never a happy ending for the women that marry him. I don't know why women kept marrying. Well, I do know it's because he was a king, and when he was younger, he was very attractive. So yeah, I think I finally would get around to checking this out, and then I'm definitely gonna read My Plain Jane, because I always wanted a retelling of Jane Eyre, but looking at it in a very unique way. Actually, I was thinking more along the lines of Pride and Prejudice and zombies, or Sense and Sensibility and Sea Monsters, which I've only read the zombie one. I didn't read the Sense and Sensibility and Sea Monsters one yet. But I think, who knows, that might make Sense and Sensibility much more interesting. But, yeah, I always like those kind of unique takes on classics. I think, it would be, but I felt like I should get this one. I should go ahead and read this and get this one, and then I'll get my Plain Jane at some point. I don't know if I'll just grab it, even though it's hardback. It depends on if I really want to buy it in that moment, then it's available to me. So this next book was not one that was recommended to me. But I'm sure it was probably one that was mentioned by my favorite booktuber, Books and Olive, because I know she's very into the Russian culture and Russian literature and all that stuff. So she probably mentioned this book, but I didn't get this book because of her. I actually got this book because, so we went to trivia at the grocery store where I work, Harris Theater. They have a trivia night every Tuesday, and they asked a question about this author, and my dad was a little frustrated that we weren't doing too well, and I was unable to answer the question about this author. And I have been wanting to read more books by this author and just other classics, to challenge myself and read richer books. Not that the books I read aren't rich, but just the older classics. I want to read more of those. I've already read some of Fitzgerald. Well, I've only read one of Fitzgerald, and that I've read twice now. I've read 1984. Who else? I can't think of who else. I've read some Dickens, Tale of Two Cities, and A Christmas Carol. I've read, of course, Pride and Prejudice. That was years ago. I feel like that's due for a reread. The original, not the zombie one. I read Sense and Sensibility, which I was not, the biggest fan of that one. But I definitely want to read more of Jane Austen. Jane Eyre, I said, is one of my favorite classics. Gone with the Wind. I'm reading Gone with the Wind for the second time right now as a buddy read with my best friend Terry. I've read a few other classics as well, but the one I'm talking about is I still cannot pronounce these names. Like, I even rewatched Book Olive's video on pronunciations of known Russian authors, but I don't remember how you're supposed to pronounce it. So I'm going to try to pronounce it, but it will probably sound horrible. But Fyodor's Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment, which is from, I just read the back, and on the back it's this guy who decides to construct the perfect crime, and it's about him trying to avoid getting caught in all the consequences of that. And the good news about classics is a lot of times classics are actually really cheap. I mean, they're not really cheap, but like this was like $13 if you round it up. Because it was like the actual price was $12.95, but of course there's tax. But yeah, it's still compared to like some of the books. That's actually that's not too terrible, I feel like. But I almost didn't buy this book because my sister has a copy of it, but it's a small paperback copy. So I went ahead and bought this one. I feel like this should be the size I should get with for my classics, because since they're so hard to read and the writing style is so different from, like, say, YA fiction or adult fiction of today, the modern books, the modern novel of today. The writing style is very different. So I almost feel like I should get. But these really are the books that I need to like do buddy reads with. Because, I mean, they're so challenging and so hard to read. Okay, go on. 1 second. This video is going a lot longer than I anticipated. Okay, so let me hurry up and continue. So the next two are definitely booktube recommendations. Okay, so this one was a book that Jen Campbell, another favorite booktuber of mine, I think she's the one who talked about this, had talked about how great this book was and how she read it, and it's a national bestseller too. So, it's like this family, and there's a mysterious, I don't know, something happens, like, one of those books where something happens in the past and it affects the present, and the present characters must figure out what happened, and they figure that out through some kind of like a diary, or through a diary or talking to other people. But yeah, I think it was Jen Campbell who talked about this book and how great it is. It might have been Mercy's Bookish Musings, or I don't know, because there's a lot of booktubers that read these kinds of books that I watch, and I definitely want to get more of these type of books. Either the literary or more adult books. And the two I just mentioned are some of the booktubers who read more of these type of books rather than the fantasy and the YA fantasy. So I definitely want to read this one. And last book I got is Circe. And no, I have not read the Achilles book. What is it called? It probably says it in here somewhere. Song of Achilles. No, I have not read that one yet. I almost bought it at the used bookstore, but I changed my mind because there were a lot of other books I have been wanting to read. that I've been wanting to buy at the time, and I couldn't narrow it down, and then that unfortunately was one of those ones I ended up putting back. But I ended up getting this one. I've always been interested in like the mythologies of the antiquity era. And I remember, and Jean from Jean's Bookish Thoughts constantly talks about this. But my problem is, I don't know if I could ever read the original material. Like, I don't think I could ever read the Iliad and the Odyssey. I think it would be too challenging to try to understand the language of the book and to be able to read it all, you know. And especially when there's like no breaks in between. It's because it's basically one long epic poem, if I remember correctly. So this is kind of my way in to get into those stories more, at least have an understanding of those stories. And I think Jean and other people have said that, I don't know if they said that you need to know the background or not of those stories. Oh, it's also Jennifer from Insert Literary Pun. I think she's talked about like this Song of Achilles and this one as well. So now once I read this one, then they will probably be motivate me to get Song of Achilles as well. But for right now, I will start with this one. It looks like a really interesting book. I love this cover, by the way. You know, I love the gold on the cover and how it kind of like sticks out a little bit. Like it feels very three-dimensional. But yeah, there are a lot of books that, because booktubers have recommended them, like not directly, but they've talked about them a lot, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna check that book out, and it takes me forever to read them, because when I do buy them, a lot of times I don't get to the books I buy right away. Sometimes I might put them on my TBR at the time, but it doesn't necessarily mean I'll get to them, because then I have so many other books I need to read. So anyway, that is what I bought recently. So have you guys bought any books recently? What are you currently reading? Are you reading books that were recommended to you by BookTube? What are some books from BookTube that were recommended to you that you bought? Well, if you like this video, be sure to give them a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please click subscribe. I really appreciate it. And to all my current subscribers, thank you for watching. And I love you guys, and I hope you continue to enjoy your reading. Alright, bye.